shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court.
You're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
that's what you said.
No, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Where was the aggressive Zorro? Where was the fake tough guy that we saw during his acceptance speech a couple of weeks ago? What the hell happened to that guy? Is Zohran Mamdani a chameleon? Because yesterday, I did not see the brash, aggressive Zohran Mamdani. Once he was in the presence of toxic masculinity, Zorro transformed back into the happy-go-lucky doofus. He was standing next to Daddy like a well-behaved child. You know, I have mixed feelings about this meeting yesterday between Zohran Mamdani and Donald Trump. Part of me thinks this is a good thing. We used to live in a country where, for the most part, we all got along. While I was driving to get my coffee earlier this morning, I was listening through one of my music playlists on YouTube. Music is very powerful. I can listen to a song from 2003, 2004, and it will instantly remind me of something that happened over 20 years ago. It will bring back memories that I haven't thought about in decades. I'm driving through the neighborhood this morning listening to T.I. and thinking about the way things used to be. The way things were before the disease of social media, before we were controlled by algorithms that are designed to keep us angry. During the 2000s, the country was divided over that useless war in Iraq, but we didn't have to question whether Democrats were hell-bent on destroying the country. Communism was something that America defeated back in the 1980s. It wasn't a concern, and Islamism damn sure wasn't a concern. Islam was something that was specific to the Middle East. Back then, there were fights in nightclubs, there were fights at house parties, but once the fight was over, it was over. It wasn't filmed and put on social media for clicks and engagement. Today, people are fighting 24 hours a day on social media. Mike Tyson was right years ago when he said, social media has made people way too comfortable being disrespectful without getting punched in the face. And that is exactly what we saw yesterday afternoon from both Zohran Mamdani and Donald Trump. For months, they have been relentlessly attacking each other. But when they're standing face to face, all of a sudden, they're best friends. They're like father and son. Come here, Zorro. Sit on Daddy's lap. Tell Orange Santa what you want for Christmas or Ramadan. On one hand, this can be perceived as a positive. Two dudes who are the complete opposite politically. They come together, they set their differences aside, they find areas where they agree, which in this case was affordability and, surprisingly, crime. Of course, that's assuming that you believe Zohran Mamdani is serious about fighting crime, which I don't. But from a PR perspective, this was a rarity that used to be common in this country. Democrats and Republicans working together to do what's best for the country. But part of me feels like yesterday was polishing the turd. In order to feel good about yesterday, you gotta believe Zohran Mamdani is sincere. You have to trust Zohran Mamdani at his word. And you gotta feel comfortable about the fact that on the surface, the Trumper is comfortable working with a communist or an Islamist. And that dog won't hunt. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Today, or maybe tomorrow on the second channel, gonna be talking about another college basketball player being busted fixing games. Unfortunately, I think this is the new norm in sports. I think we are going to see this with more and more regularity. Players betting for their own teams to lose. If you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. From a political perspective, I think Donald Trump was the winner yesterday. After months of tough talk, after months of claiming that he would be the Trumpers' worst nightmare, Zohran Mamdani stood in the Oval Office yesterday, and I thought he looked weak. He was timid. He was submissive. You don't take my word for it. Take a look at the difference in these two clips. The first was from August of this year. The second was from yesterday. Watch it for yourself.
My administration would be Donald Trump's worst nightmare. I have many disagreements with the president, and I believe that we should be relentless and pursue all avenues and all meetings that could make our city affordable. I intend to make it clear to President Trump that I will work with him on any agenda that benefits New Yorkers.
How in the hell are you going to be a nightmare when you're basically agreeing to do what you're told? Credit where credit is due, though. It took guts for Zohran Mamdani to meet with the Trumper yesterday. His radical base, the Democratic Socialist of America, also known as communist, they are going to view this as a sign of weakness. They are going to view this as being submissive to the orange man. Communist, they don't want their leader working with capitalists. Radical Democrats, they don't want the face of their party taking friendly photographs with the enemy. Their goal is to dismantle the system and replace it with a system that rewards them for doing absolutely nothing while penalizing people who actually work. According to Fox News, this yesterday was a brilliant move by the Trumper. He's showing Zohran Mamdani who's boss. Donnie is keeping his enemies close. That could be true. One thing Donald Trump is really good at, he's really good at making people feel comfortable. People in the media or doofus politicians, they'll talk shit about the Trumper for months, and after they meet him in person, it's like they're temporarily mesmerized. Don isn't such a bad guy, you know. Matter of fact, he's really swell. There were a couple of moments yesterday where Don Trump might have been pulling Zohran Mamdani into a false sense of comfort. Watch it for yourself.
Do you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it.
It is a lot harder to demonize someone. It's a lot harder to talk shit about someone publicly when you have some form of a relationship with them. It's a lot harder to disrespect someone when you need them. And the truth is, Zohran Mamdani needs the Trumper. He needs Kathy Hochul or whoever will be governor of New York after next year when Kat loses the election. It's easy to talk shit on the campaign trail when you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. But once you're in office, you realize you actually need these people to be effective. So it'll be interesting to see how Zohran Mamdani conducts himself going forward. But here's what I didn't like about yesterday. For starters, Hours before Don and Zorro met with each other, the House passed a resolution condemning socialism. The resolution passed with a vote of 285 to 98, with 86 Democrats voting to condemn socialism, including Hakeem Jeffries, the same Hakeem Jeffries who sorta endorsed Zohran Mamdani for mayor. Now, does this resolution actually mean anything? Probably not, but it was damn sure undermined, at least from a public relations perspective, by the Trumper being willing to work with a communist. But my bigger concern is the White House being willing to work with an Islamist. Again, Donald Trump could be keeping Zohran Mamdani close in an effort to control him. I know for a fact that Donald Trump isn't going to reveal his true intentions publicly, which is smart. It's smart. And if he is keeping Zohran Mamdani close to maintain a level of control, that's smart too. But the thing about Islamism, you got to be very, very careful. Just like with communists, you can't give them an inch because they'll take that inch and demand a foot, then a yard, then a mile. Next thing you know, you're walking through the streets of London hearing the call to prayer 5 times a day. Yesterday afternoon, Katie Pavlich, she posted an excerpt from one of Zohran Mamdani's father's books, or maybe an article he wrote in the past. As is the case with most active fathers, Zohran Mamdani's father was influential in shaping his ideology. In this excerpt, his father, I guess, is talking about jihad. According to Katie Pavlich, Zohran Mamdani's father is trying to normalize bombings that encourage the spread of Islam. We need to recognize these brave bombers as soldiers. Bombing needs to be understood as a feature of modern political violence rather than stigmatized as a mark of barbarism. Okay. Do you guys remember Jeremiah Wright? He was the pastor at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. It was the same church that Barry Obama attended. Remember back in 2008, a few months before the election, when some of his anti-American sermons were released publicly? If I remember correctly, he was giving a sermon weeks or months, maybe even years after 9/11, and Jeremiah Wright said, "Not God bless America, God damn America!" Remember that? Remember all of the subtle warning signs that we were given with Barack Obama? And remember how America didn't listen? Maybe Zohran Mamdani wants what's best for New York City. Maybe he wants what's best for America. Maybe Zohran Mamdani wants to make living in New York City more affordable. But what if the warnings are right? Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.